The Cleveland Browns quarterback situation just went from uncertain to absolute chaos. And Shedeur Sanders, the once celebrated fifth-round pick out of Colorado, is now staring down the barrel of losing his starting job before he ever truly secured it. ESPN Cleveland's longtime team analyst, Tony Grossi, doesn't think Sanders has done enough to be crowned the Browns' starting quarterback for 2026, and the stunning verdicts dropped just hours ago has Browns fans reeling and Sanders' future hanging by a thread. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now because this story is moving fast, and you don't want to miss a single development in what could be the most dramatic quarterback controversy of the offseason. Here's where things get absolutely wild. During his appearance on ESPN Cleveland alongside Tony Rizzo, Grossi made it clear that he doesn't think Sanders has secured the starting job for next season, stating, "To be honest, Riz, I don't think he's earned your number one next year. I think there's a competition, naming Dylan Gabriel and even Deshaun Watson as potential challengers." But wait, it gets worse. Grossi went on to say, "It looks like we're going to do it over again. We're going to punt on the quarterback and wait for 2027. That's right, 2027. The Browns might be looking past not just Sanders, but the entire 2026 draft class, all while the rookie quarterback is still trying to prove himself in this final games of the season. This isn't just about one analyst's opinion. This is about a franchise that has cycled through quarterbacks for over 2 decades, suddenly contemplating hitting the reset button again, and Sanders is caught right in the middle of it. The numbers tell a brutal story. Grossi pointed out that Sanders is completing 52% of his passes when the NFL average is 65%, and he completed 72% at Colorado, meaning he's down 20%, which is more than any rookie quarterback is down this year. Think about that for a second. The same quarterback who was surgical at Colorado, completing nearly 3 out of every 4 passes, is now struggling to complete half his attempts in the NFL. That's not just a learning curve, that's a cliff. And the tape doesn't lie. In Week 17 against the Steelers, Sanders finished completing 17 of his 23 pass attempts for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. On paper, that completion percentage looks decent at 73%, but here's the kicker. After throwing his first interception, Sanders threw a measly 29 passing yards for the rest of the game, while 21 of the 29 came in the second half. The Browns' offense completely stalled, and Sanders looked timid and rattled after making early mistakes. For a quarterback trying to secure his future, that kind of disappearing act in crunch time is exactly what you can't do. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn for Sanders. The Browns currently sit with a top 7 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, and the quarterback class, while not deep, has 2 names that are making NFL front offices salivate: Fernando Mendoza from Indiana and Dante Moore from Oregon. Dante Moore is ranked as the top quarterback prospect, with Fernando Mendoza at number 2, according to Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. And here's the problem. The Cleveland Browns have little certainty at the QB position with Shedeur Sanders and a lower 2026 NFL draft pick. And if the Browns end up picking outside of the top 2, the odds of them trading up for a quarterback in a 2 QB class are unlikely. Translation, the Browns might not even be in position to grab one of the elite prospects unless they make a massive move. Yet Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot stated they must then determine if his upside potential is better than that of whichever quarterback they can draft in 2026. Depending on where they land with their first pick, it's currently number 3. They might have a chance to draft Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, Oregon's Dante Moore, or Alabama's Ty Simpson. The Browns brass is literally sitting in war rooms right now weighing whether Sanders' uncertain potential is worth more than a guaranteed shot at a top collegiate prospect. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room that has Browns Twitter absolutely exploding: Arch Manning. Yes, that Arch Manning. ESPN Cleveland Browns analyst Tony Grossi believes ownership could decide to punt on a long-term solution at quarterback for next season and look ahead to 2027, saying, "I think the year will start. Arch Manning will be Heisman #1 odds-on favorite, and he'll have a good year, proving to everyone he's ready." And he continued, "And who's going to be looking for a quarterback? Jimmy Haslam." This isn't some random speculation. ESPN's Tony Rizzo revealed that Browns owner Jimmy Haslam may already be looking towards the future as far as signal caller is concerned, saying, "I know he would not admit it, and I know it's nothing that they want to talk about, but I'm telling you, the thirst that Jimmy Haslam has for Arch Manning is unmatched. Unmatched. And there's a connection here that makes this theory even more plausible. Uncle Peyton Manning played for Tennessee University, where the Haslam family are big boosters, and Jimmy has had a close relationship with the Manning family for years. This isn't just draft strategy. This is personal relationships, big money, and legacy quarterback bloodlines all colliding in Cleveland."
Think about what this means for Shedeur Sanders. He's not just competing against Dillon Gabriel in the quarterback room. He's not just competing against Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore in the upcoming draft. He's competing against a ghost. The ghost of Arch Manning, a quarterback who won't even be draft eligible for another year. Analyst Chris Oldach floated the idea of the Browns waiting until 2027 to land a new quarterback, namely Arch Manning of the Texas Longhorns, saying, "I don't think they believe in Shedeur, but maybe they do. And I also just think that, here's the thing, don't get mad at me, okay? I think Haslam is still waiting for Arch Manning." Can you imagine being a rookie quarterback fighting for your career, knowing that ownership might be willing to sacrifice another entire season just to take a shot at drafting the next Manning? That's not pressure, that's psychological warfare. And the internal chaos doesn't stop there. Grossi painted a bleak picture of Sanders' chances of being the starting quarterback in 2026, saying, "I don't think there's enough evidence to commit to him at this point, no matter who's making that decision." Notice that last part, no matter who's making that decision. That's because strong rumors of head coach and front office changes leave a plethora of options open for next season. Kevin Stefanski's job is on the hot seat. The front office might get blown up. Sanders could have an entirely new coaching staff and general manager evaluating him next season. People who had zero investment in drafting him. People who might want to bring in their guy instead. Sanders himself openly admitted the uncertainty inside the locker room, saying, "Half of us don't know if we're going to be here next year." When your own quarterback is publicly acknowledging that nobody knows who's staying or going, you know the foundation is crumbling. Let's break down exactly what Sanders is up against in his final game of the season. There's one final opportunity for Shedeur Sanders to convince the organization that he should be crowned the Browns' starting quarterback for 2026, and that comes this Sunday in Cincinnati against the Bengals, in what will be the rookie's 7th career start. 7 starts. That's all he's getting to make or break his entire NFL future in Cleveland. 7 games to show he deserves to be the franchise guy. And based on what we've seen, the odds are stacked against him. Against the Steelers, Gabriel didn't give any confidence to the front office that he should comfortably be QB1 next season. And if anything, it should motivate the team to invest in getting competition to compete with Sanders. The Browns watched Gabriel struggle. They watched Sanders flash brilliance early, then fade. Neither rookie has seized the moment and said, "I'm the guy," period. That indecision is what's fueling all this chaos. Now here's where Sanders' defenders will point to recent improvements. Sanders expressed his excitement for his future in Cleveland, saying, "This year right here, it's the worst it's going to be. This is the foundation. This is where I'm building from. This is where I'm understanding different things. This is where everything's translating for me. I'm excited about it. I'm extremely excited about it because I know we're going to get him eventually." That's the mindset of a competitor who believes in himself. And to be fair, Sanders has shown flashes. Sanders was on fire to kick off the contest against the Steelers, making multiple high-level throws, including a massive 42-yard completion to wideout Cedric Tillman, where he layered the ball perfectly into the hands of his wide receiver to move the chains. When he's on, he's really on. The arm talent is undeniable. The confidence is there. The pedigree is there. But in the NFL, flashes don't cut it. Consistency does. And that's exactly where Sanders has fallen short. There's also the legitimate argument that Cleveland hasn't set Sanders up for success. The current quarterback room is Deshaun Watson, rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and in Deshaun's case, he's still on the roster, and the odds of him playing another down in a Browns uniform are slim. Watson is done. The offensive line has been inconsistent at best. The lack of offensive talent has to be addressed in order for the team to possibly contend next season. Sanders doesn't have elite weapons, he doesn't have elite protection, and he's being judged as if he's playing with a playoff roster, when the reality is he's playing with a team that's fighting for the #1 overall pick. Some insiders are even suggesting the Browns should build around Sanders instead of replacing him. NFL insider Josina Anderson says that it's already clear that the Browns' best and most cost-effective decision is to build around Shedeur Sanders, who's only costing them $4.6 million on a 4-year deal in this day and age of NFL QB money. That's a fair point. Sanders is on a cheap 5th-round contract. You could surround him with weapons, upgrade the offensive line, give him actual NFL talent to work with, and then evaluate him fairly. But that takes patience, and patience is something Cleveland hasn't shown quarterbacks in over 25 years.
The most fascinating subplot in all of this? Tony Grossi himself. This isn't some random hot take artist. Grossi is a Cleveland institution, someone who's covered the Browns for decades, but his relationship with Sanders has been rocky from day one. Sanders confronted Grossi following his post-game media availability after a preseason game, saying, "Tony, I hope you have something positive to say about me. You always say negative stuff about me." And I'm like, I didn't do nothing to you. Sanders called him out, on camera, with that signature blend of confidence and frustration that defines Coach Prime's son. Grossi had previously said back in June, the media are doing Shedeur a disservice by inflating where he's at right now. He's a developmental quarterback, just like Dillon Gabriel. He's not a franchise quarterback. Overinflating expectations is just not good. He's not close to being QB1. That was before the season even started. Grossi has been skeptical from the jump, and now his skepticism is being validated, or at least that's how he sees it. But here's the brutal truth that Browns fans need to face. The draft positioning might actually save Sanders' job by default. Indiana QB Fernando Mendoza will likely declare for the 2026 NFL Draft, while Oregon's Dante Moore and Alabama's Ty Simpson will not, and Mendoza will essentially comprise a one-man class, which will make his decision to turn pro even easier and will also drive up the price to acquire the right to draft him. If Dante Moore returns to school, if Ty Simpson returns to school, and the Browns are sitting at pick number 3 or 4 or 5, they might not have a realistic shot at landing an elite quarterback prospect without mortgaging their entire future. In that scenario, Sanders wins by default, not because he earned it, but because the alternatives disappeared. That's not exactly a vote of confidence, and it sets up 2026 to be another year of quarterback purgatory in Cleveland. So what happens next? Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot shared insights, saying, "I don't believe they're there yet, but I think last week's loss to the Bills, and despite also throwing 2 picks, Sanders showed competitiveness and playmaking, 2 necessary qualities in a starting quarterback. The Browns are in evaluation mode. They're watching, they're weighing, they're trying to figure out if Sanders' ceiling is higher than what they could draft or trade for." Cabot continued, "They must then determine if his upside potential is better than that of whichever quarterback they can draft in 2026. Depending on where they land with their first pick, it's currently number 3, they might have a chance to draft Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, Oregon's Dante Moore, or Alabama's Ty Simpson, but Sanders has an excellent opportunity over these next 2 games to make the Browns forget about those 3 and only have eyes for him. It all comes down to Cincinnati. 1 game, 1 last chance to show he's the answer instead of another question mark. The overarching narrative here is tragic in a way. Shedeur Sanders came into the NFL with more hype, more scrutiny, and more pressure than any 5th-round pick in modern history. He's the son of a legend. He dominated at the college level. He fell in the draft amid questions about his interviews and attitude. He landed with a franchise desperate for stability at quarterback. And now, less than 1 season in, he's already fighting for his professional life. Sanders had a great chance to put together his first complete performance of the season in Week 17, but still was unable to do it, and 6 starts for a rookie 5th-round pick is more than what most guys get. That's the harsh reality. Most 5th-rounders never see the field. Sanders has gotten his opportunity. If he can't capitalize, the Browns won't hesitate to move on. They've moved on from 1st-round picks. They'll certainly move on from a 5th-rounder who doesn't deliver. And then there's the Arch Manning shadow looming over everything.
Browns fans are being told to start thinking of Arch Manning-themed tank slogans, with suggestions like the March for Arch or Planning for Manning. That's not a joke. That's genuine speculation based on ownership's connections and preferences. If the Browns decide Sanders isn't the guy, and if they decide Mendoza or Moore aren't worth trading up for, they could legitimately punt on 2026 and position themselves for a shot at Manning in 2027. That means another lost year, another reset, another generation of Browns fans watching their team chase the ghost of stability at quarterback. And for Sanders, it means his window might close before it ever truly opened.
One more critical factor that can't be ignored. Sanders has to kick his bad habit of trying to force throws. That's been a consistent theme throughout his starts. He'll make 2 or 3 incredible throws that showcase NFL-caliber arm talent, then he'll force a ball into coverage that has no chance, and suddenly the entire drive is dead. Those mistakes are costing him. The interceptions are piling up. Sanders has thrown 7 interceptions since becoming the starter in Week 12, the most of any quarterback over that time. 7 picks in 6 games. That's not a sustainable ratio. That's not franchise quarterback play. And when you combine that with inconsistent completion percentages and a tendency to disappear when games get tight, you start to understand why analysts like Grossi are waving red flags. But let's also acknowledge the counterpoint. Development isn't linear. Shedeur Sanders has shown signs that he could develop into a starting-level quarterback, and the Cleveland Browns are likely to draft a quarterback high in the 2026 NFL Draft, meaning both are true, and Sanders' role with the Browns will continue in 2026. The Browns could bring in competition, whether that's through the draft or free agency, and let Sanders battle for the job in training camp. That's a fair approach. That's how you develop quarterbacks. You create competition, you force them to earn it, and you see who rises to the challenge. If Cleveland doesn't have a high grade on Moore, Mendoza, or another quarterback, they would look to build around Sanders, even if they trade down to hedge their bets for a QB in the 2027 NFL Draft. There are multiple paths forward here. The question is which path the Browns and their potentially new coaching staff and front office will choose. Sunday's game in Cincinnati isn't just another regular season finale, it's a referendum on Sanders' future. It's a final audition. It's the last chance to show that the flashes are becoming consistency, that the mistakes are being cleaned up, that the confidence is backed by execution. Guard Wyatt Teller was asked about Sanders' future on Wednesday and said, "Like I said, you never know how the offseason shakes out. As much as I love Shedeur, I focus on where I view his life and focused on mine and my family. There's a lot that we all have to do going into the offseason, a lot of uncertainty and changes, so it's going to be crazy. Even his own teammates don't know what's coming. The uncertainty is suffocating, and in that uncertainty, Sanders has to go out and prove he's worth building around. He has to silence Grossi. He has to quiet the Arch Manning rumors. He has to show the Browns brass that passing on him would be the biggest mistake they could make. Because if he doesn't, if he lays another egg, if he throws 2 more picks and fades in the second half, then the chaos we're seeing now becomes the new reality. The Browns draft a quarterback, Sanders becomes a backup, and another chapter in Cleveland's never-ending quarterback nightmare gets written. The stakes couldn't be higher, the pressure couldn't be more intense, and the clock is ticking on Shedeur Sanders' future as the Cleveland Browns franchise quarterback. 1 game left, 1 opportunity, and the entire NFL world is watching to see if he can finally deliver when it matters most, or if the chaos surrounding his QB1 status becomes permanent. The information presented in this video is based on publicly available reports, insider statements, analyst opinions, and ongoing developments as of early January 2026. The NFL draft, coaching changes, and roster decisions discussed are subject to change as the offseason progresses. Player performances and statistics reflect the 2025 season through Week 17. Speculation regarding Arch Manning, Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, and other prospects is based on current draft projections and may evolve as the offseason progresses. This content is for entertainment and informational purposes and does not represent official statements from the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur Sanders, or any NFL organization.